joining the webinar, and we'll have a question and answer session right afterwards. So we'll go ahead and jump into the webinar. So the purpose of this webinar is to inform current college students as well as undergraduate students, current undergraduate students, on how they can save thousands on their tuition. So the topics that will be covered include when to start looking for financial assistance and examples of where to look for scholarships, as well as other opportunities. So some of the things that we will cover this evening: we will briefly discuss understanding the costs associated with college. We will also discuss common misconceptions around scholarships and financial aid. We will also discuss examples of financial opportunities for college students, and again, that's undergraduate students. I'll have an upcoming webinar where we'll focus more on graduate students. Understanding student loans, as well as additional opportunities. So first, we'll start with the cost of college because this is really important. And I just would like to mention that the figures that I will share with you are estimates. Again, these are subject to change, so you may have already seen some of these figures that may be slightly lower, slightly higher, but one thing that's true is that the numbers continue to go up. So, for example, with the public two-year college for in-state tuition or for in-state students, the cost is around $3,131 a year. For a public four-year college for in-state students, it's $8,655 per year. A public four-year college for out-of-state students is around $21,706 per year. A private four-year college is around $29,056 per year. These figures actually come from the College Board from 2014. And again, I just want to reiterate that these numbers are continuing to increase. The cost of college is not going down, but again, this at least gives you the ballpark figures of what to expect. So next, I want to talk about some of the common misconceptions around scholarships because there are many. This actually contributes to why many people don't take advantage of scholarship opportunities. The first one are that there are not many scholarship opportunities for college students, and this is simply not true. Later on in the presentation, I will present a few of the scholarship opportunities that exist, but there are just as many scholarships that exist for current college students as there are for high school students. The next misconception is that the FAFSA, which is the free application for student aid, is the only source of financial aid. And again, that's not true. The FAFSA looks at the income or the resources that your family has in order to contribute to college. And so that comes straight from the government. So things like the Pell Grant, student loans, which we'll talk about later on, work study, those are things that are determined by the FAFSA. However, there are many other sources out there that do not care about parents' income or the student's income, as well as other sources of income. So again, there are lots of opportunities. So I don't want you to rule out that you or your child is not eligible for financial aid because perhaps you didn't get any money for the government. We make too much money for my child to qualify for outside scholarship. So this really ties into the point that I just made about the FAFSA. Again, there are many resources out there where they do not care anything about the income or financial need, as well as a child's GPA or other things. So again, this is a misconception. I hear people say this all the time. Only apply for scholarships when you need them. Again, this is not true because the time to apply for scholarships is way in advance. So if you know that you need monies for the fall, ideally you want to apply for those almost a year in advance. And so again, there are a few opportunities left for the fall semester coming up. But again, scholarships come in waves, and so do other financial opportunities. So you want to make sure that you take advantage of all the opportunities in the fall, in the spring, and if you plan ahead, you won't get overwhelmed. So again, you want to make sure you have more than enough, not only to cover your tuition and your fees, but also any additional expenses that come with being in college or living on campus. If a student has good grades, they will automatically qualify for scholarships. Well, this is not true. You may have known people personally who didn't have the best grades, but they received a lot of money. And I'm going to talk about some of those things when we talk about preparation for scholarships and other sources. Having good grades is extremely important. However, you want to also be a well-rounded person, which I'll talk more about, as far as writing essays. If it's a scholarship where you have to write an essay, writing an essay is totally different for writing a paper than it is for writing for a scholarship committee. I actually have a scholarship that I give in my community, and so I talk to people about the types of things they need in their essays, because I know, not only having a scholarship but have served on scholarship committees in the past, I know the types of things that people look for, as well as how they score things. And then I've done plenty of recommendations for students also. So again, it's a combination of things that you want to know about ahead of time. So that's another misconception. So how do we prepare for scholarship opportunities? Well, one of the things is volunteer work and other extracurricular activities. Maybe your schedule is full, or maybe your child's schedule is full. So maybe you don't have an opportunity to do anything extra. I would suggest, if you are part of a church, a religious organization, or part of a community group, um, you can count those things as volunteer work. For your child, you want to make sure, or if you're currently in college, or it's your child, look at the opportunities that are around you. If you belong to an organization and there are community activities that you do, you want to make sure that you continue to do those things, because on a scholarship application, some of them want to know about your extracurricular activities. Again, this is how they look at whether or not a person is well rounded. So again, good grades, but also this volunteer work. Leadership experiences. So you have your volunteer work and extracurricular activities. So what are the opportunities around you that maybe you could lead something? For example, at your church, do they have some type of community feeding or clothing drive? Is there an opportunity for you to take a leadership role, whether it's reaching out to businesses and other organizations, or maybe you have an opportunity to come up with an idea for back to school projects or things like that? But it's important that you start to try to think about the opportunities that exist, because having leadership experiences is very important. And so that's what separates students from those who, let's say, they have good grades, but they don't have volunteer work or leadership experiences. By having these leadership experiences, this helps push you closer to the top of the pile. Credible references. This is extremely important, especially when you're in college. And what do I mean by credible references? Well, for example, I mentioned I've taught many years at the college level. So I have actually completed lots of recommendation forms for students. So I always like to tell students and aspiring students, it is important that you have a good relationship with your professors, because when you're in college, 9 times out of 10, well, I'm just going to say really most of the time, if it's a scholarship, they're going to want to get references from your professors. And some of the things that they ask about your professionalism, rating you on a scale of 1 to 10, your attitude. So again, it's not just about the grades, but it's about your ability to work in groups, your ability to work independently. So again, your professors are going to be some of the closest people that you'll work with during your college experience. And particularly in your major, you want to be able to get references, not just from any college professor, but a professor that you've actually that has actually taught you, so they can speak to these things. They can, speak to your work habits, to your character, and things like that. Also, again, you may also have to get references from people in the community. So this is why it's a great thing to have the volunteer work and the other extracurricular activities, because what happens is you can also go back to them and ask, hey, can I have a letter of recommendation? I need this for a scholarship, or whatever it is you're doing. So this is extremely important, because they also will score you, those scholarships that want these things, they will also score you on the types of references and how well they're written and things like that. Seek assistance from someone familiar with the process. I can't say this enough. You should never be embarrassed about seeking assistance, because this is a tedious process. It can be very lengthy. It can be very frustrating. And I've just seen many people pass up opportunities for money because they simply got frustrated. So whether you're in college and you're asking your professors, or if you're talking to someone like myself who assists individuals and families with this process, reach out to someone so that you can learn. And you can never talk to too many people about this. So let's get into paying for college. So how do we pay for college? That's one of the number one questions. So the first step would be completing the FAFSA, which is the free application for student aid. Again, this is where you would get any of your monies from the government. And I always like to tell people again that this is not the only way that you can receive monies, but again, this is where you would start, and you have to complete this form every year. Scholarship sources, these are some examples of ways to look for scholarships. Places of employment for both the parent and the children. So if you're a parent and you're in college, then look at your place of employment or your type of industry, as well as if you have children that are in college, on their way to college, look at those industries and things like that, because a lot of times there are opportunities. Places of worship. So, for example, I grew up United Methodist, so I was able to take advantage of the scholarships that existed because I was a member of United Methodist Church, and I was also very active in the church. So there are actually scholarships. If your church doesn't have scholarships on the local level, they may have it on the conference level if you are a member of a larger organization. So again, make sure that you check, with your leaders. If they don't know, again, if you have a conference level, check with them. Also with books, again, people still use books. The beautiful thing about books in this day and age, even you can check the internet to make sure that the information is up to date or the website's up to date. So don't overlook books also. Internships. So particularly at the college level, now you can take advantage of paid internships. So I always encourage people to seek out these opportunities. Again, you're talking to your professors, you're talking to other people on campus to ask them about internships. And when I give some examples of some of the scholarship, the ways to look for monies, I'll talk more about those things. So again, there are unpaid internships where you can get the experience that you need for your major or your child's major. But there are also paid internships. Some of you may have heard of people that were in college and they flew out of the state, or maybe they stayed in the state, but they worked for a company and then they got a job right after college. So again, this is another source of money for school, or to take care of your expenses. Read bulletin boards in your department and other departments for scholarship and internship opportunities. I can't say this enough. This is a true story. When I was an undergraduate student many years ago, I actually had an opportunity to spend 6 weeks at the University of Pennsylvania. It was a 6 week, what they call a Summer Institute for Demographic Research. And basically what that is it's where I took a class on studying birth rates, death rates, things like that, because I was a sociology major. So as sociologists, we study different types of things. We learn different types of skills as it relates to research and statistics and things like that. So I had an opportunity, like I said, to go there. They actually paid for my plane ticket. They paid me $1,200, and I stayed on campus. And while I was there, I also had an opportunity to go to NYU because we were part of the program. They gave us an open train ticket to go to NYU to actually participate in a research symposium. And I also took advantage of that because at that time I was trying to build my resume because I knew I wanted to go to graduate school. So my point for telling you that brief story is that I actually learned about that opportunity by reading it on a bulletin board in my department. And what was funny about it at the time was that when I returned, some of the professors asked me, well, how did you find out about that? How did you know about that? So they asked me, would I do a little presentation for them? And, I had pictures and everything and talked about my experiences. And that's because I read it on the bulletin board. Now, what usually happens when you're in college, the departments within your major, they get a lot of information. A lot of information comes through there. I know I would get a lot of information the administrative assistants and other professors would receive. And so a lot of times they'll just post it on bulletin boards. So I just make it a habit to read bulletin boards. I might not be looking for anything in particular, but I'm just looking to see what I can see. So this is also a good way to find out about all kinds of information. And again, I'm just a witness to that opportunity. So, and if you're visiting, if you're in another department, if you're in another building on campus, and it's not necessarily the building where you take your classes, still read the bulletin boards because there are a lot of opportunities for people out there. And it doesn't matter what your major is, or sometimes they'll offer that opportunity to different majors. So again, read the bulletin boards, not just in your department, but also in other departments as you're walking the halls of school. And as I mentioned before, ask your professors and chairpersons of your department. Another true story, a department that I taught in actually had some money set aside. The chairpersons had set aside some money to help students for books and other things if they came up short. So a lot of these things you just don't know to ask. And so these are some things that I've learned over the years as a student, but also being on the other side of it, that I know this is how you would really want to leverage your college experience. Again, you have people around you, not just the scholarship sources outside, but there's a lot of things that you can learn from the inside. Also, social media is really big. Many people use social media. Young people use it all the time. So don't be afraid to ask on social media if anyone is aware of any scholarship opportunities, because there have been times where people couldn't find anyone to apply for a scholarship, so they just start asking around. So use that to your advantage. Hey, post something. Does anybody know of any scholarship opportunities? I know on my social media pages, from time to time, I will post, different opportunities as it relates to internships and scholarships. So don't be afraid to use social media to your advantage. Another overlooked source is your school's financial aid and admissions office website. There are a lot of resources on colleges and universities' websites. I've seen them myself when I'm looking for sources for students and families. This is one of the places that I check. So for example, like I said, it's either going to be listed on the financial aid office's webpage or the admissions office webpage. It will be between one of those two places. So some of the sources that you will see will be for the specific school only, for certain departments within that school. But they usually also have one of two things. They either have a link to outside resources, or they'll have actually a listing of different scholarships from different sources. So again, this is something that's overlooked. So a lot of times, and sometimes even if you go to the financial aid office, they may be able to tell you about some of them. But what I found is, still they may not know about all the opportunities that exist. So, you or your child, you want to be proactive, and, you can call them and ask them, but you can also visit those websites. Internet search, that's another way that I look for scholarships, but I always tell people to beware of scams, because if you come across something and they say for $800 we will guarantee that you'll get a scholarship. Well, it's always like I tell people, if somebody is trying to guarantee you anything, you run, and you run fast. This is a competitive process, and there are no guarantees. When I help people, what I tell them is, number one, you have to take advantage of the guidance that I provide, and any resources that I provide to you. But the name of the game is, the more that you apply for, the more you increase your chances of receiving something. And again, my job is to help you to sort of navigate that and avoid some of the common pitfalls as far as understanding what people are looking for. So again, stay away from people who say, I can guarantee you something. And I'm just here to tell you that there's no guarantee in anything, unless somebody is getting ready to actually write you a check out of their, purse or something like that. So again, just you want to be aware of that. And so I actually work with people to show them how to strategically find resources on the internet. But the internet is a really good source, but you can get lost in it. So again, at the college level, maybe you're part of professional organizations or you're a member of local and national honor societies, fraternities, and sororities. So, for example, when you're in college, if you're an honor student, there are lots of organizations that will come after you. They will recruit you. For example, I'm a lifetime member of something called a Golden Key Honor Society. And so from time to time, they still send me information, and they base those things off of what your GPA was at the time, your class rank, and things like that. So I'm not saying that you have to become a member of every professional organization because they do cost money. But what you want to do is look at which ones might be most beneficial to you. And the advantage of becoming a member of the professional organization as they contact you is that now you have access to resources such as scholarships, information, job opportunities, internship opportunities, and also with honor societies within your major. As I mentioned before, my background is in sociology, so I was also a lifetime member of something called Alpha Kappa Delta International Sociology Society. So again, when you're a paid member, you receive all kinds of things, and even now as a professional, I still receive emails about scholarship opportunities, emails about job opportunities, internships, things like that. And again, if you're a member of a fraternity or sorority, again, check with your local chapters, check with your national chapters. So again, if you're a part of professional organizations, make sure that you are taking advantage of those things. So now I want to share just a few examples of the types of scholarships and contests that are out there for undergraduate students, regardless of your age. So, and again, this is not an exhaustive list of everything, but I just want to give you just a few examples. So there's one out there called the Dolman Law Group Video Essay Contest. It's $1,100, and you submit a 2 to 3 minute video essay on the following topic: what legal and social initiatives could lawmakers implement in order to curb texting and driving? Another example is the New Look Laser Tattoo Removal Scholarship. It's $1,000. You express your opinion of the societal impact of laser tattoo removal. So again, has nothing to do with how much money you have coming in or even your GPA. Another example is the Atlas Shrugged Essay Contest, $20,000. So you submit an essay of between 800 and 1,600 words related to Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrug, and the topics, the choices that you would write about are listed on the sponsor's website. The OBO Scholarship Essay Contest, $1,500. Write an essay on the following: do you believe home ownership is still a part of the American dream? So again, there are lots of resources out there. And as I mentioned before, even if you're not the traditional age of a college student, ages 18 to 22, it doesn't matter because a lot of these scholarships don't have age restrictions on them. And there are also scholarship opportunities for persons who they consider non-traditional students. There are scholarship opportunities for women, for single parents. So the list goes on and on. So here are some additional links to additional resources when you're looking for resources for college. So one is studentaid.ed.gov. Another is fastweb.com. This is one of my favorites. FastWeb makes it a whole lot easier to manage resources. So FastWeb is a database where you go in. It's important that you complete the profile. The profile consists of asking questions about the student, like their gender, their age, their status in college, whether they're freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or in graduate school. And there are also questions that they ask about parents. So what FastWeb does is it actually does a search based off of everything that you complete in your profile, and then they actually will have scholarships listed that according to the information that you've given them, that's a match for you. But there are also a lot of other resources on FastWeb. You can actually set up an email alert, so they will email you. I get emails every day of the week about scholarship opportunities and internship opportunities that are out there. But even though that's a nice, convenient way, you still want to know how to navigate the website because they have a lot of other opportunities and feature scholarships and things like that. CFNC.org, which is the College Foundation of North Carolina. Some students may be familiar with this because for many schools in North Carolina, you had to use CFNC.org to apply for to apply to college. So, but they also have a lot of resources on there about scholarships, articles about financial responsibility, information about loans and things like that. The free application for student aid, again, you've heard me say this before. This is the FAFSA. So again, it's important that you make sure to complete that every year to see what you may be eligible for. And that's the website. Now that we've talked about a few of the what we would call resources that you do not have to pay back, so that's your scholarships, your internships, things like that. Now we're going to talk about loans, because what happens is if you don't have enough money for college, then many times people have to take out student loans. And so it is extremely important to understand the difference between the types of loans that are out there when you're making the decision. Because again, when we get into the different types of loans as it relates to the federal government, this is where they'll pull the information for your FAFSA if you didn't have enough in Pell Grant, or if you didn't receive Pell Grant or any of the small state grants that may exist. So one of the first types of loans that I'll discuss is a subsidized loan. So this is when the federal government pays on the loan while the borrower is in school. So ideally, if you have to get a loan and you're offered several, this is the one that I always suggest that you take advantage of first. So again, they're going to pay, again, the interest on the loan, that is. So you don't have to worry about that. Unsubsidized loan is where the borrower is responsible for the time the funds are given, or the borrower may allow the interest to be added to the outstanding principal or the balance. This is where we get into your student loan sort of ballooning out of control. So let's say, for example, you take out a $10,000 student loan your first year in college. And then what happens is at the end of that year, now you've accumulated interest. And I'm just going to throw something out there. Let's say you accumulate $1,000 in interest. So now you have the original $10,000 plus that $1,000. That's your new balance. And so that happens every year. You have your new balance with the new interest that becomes your new balance. So again, in 4 years, you can accumulate thousands. Now, what I suggest, if you have to also take out an unsubsidized loan, if at all possible, pay something on the interest so that you don't have to worry about this ballooning out of control. So also with the unsubsidized loan, any interest in general that you pay on a student loan is going to be tax deductible. The max is about $2,500, but there are income limitations on that. So again, that could be added incentive in addition to trying to stay out of a lot of debt to try to pay on that interest. But that's the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans. So when you're looking at your award letter and you're looking at how those things, what they're offering you, you want to make sure that you understand this is the difference between the two. Next, we have also federal Perkins loans and Parent Plus loans. So these are some additional loans and options that students can take out. There are limits, and with the federal Perkins loans, not every school participates in this program. So you really would have to, that's something that the schools decide and they administer. And then your Parent Plus loans, these are loans that parents take out for their children. Private lenders, that's another source of loans. I tell people to stay away if possible. I say that because private lenders don't care if you're living or dead, they want their money. Now, most student loans are dischargeable in death. However, if, let's say, for example, there are a few, there may be 2 or 3 that I've heard of that they would discharge in death. So what that means is if you've co-signed for somebody for a private student loan, and your name is on it and they pass away, they don't care that they passed away. So again, you have to really be mindful if you're going to co-sign, what that really means, if that's something that you really, really want to do. But if you have to borrow, I suggest starting with the federal government first, because the federal government has so many types of assistance or programs to assist you if you stumble across hard times, if you lose your job, if you get sick, or something else happens that you're not able to make your payments. There's no reason for people to go into default, but a lot of people don't know about the different kinds of programs. They have hardship programs, they have income-based programs, but there are programs designed for you. Now, on the flip side, the interest will continue to accumulate on your loan, but on the flip side, you don't ruin your credit, you don't have your wages garnished and things like that. So that's why it's extremely important, again, if you're going to go with loans, to try to stick with your government loans, because there are tons of programs out there. Federal work study. This is when students actually work on campus. Students work in offices and food places, different places on campus, so that they can work. And it's usually just a few hours a week, and that assists them um, with their expenses for college. And again, this is determined when you complete the FAFSA. So again, when you receive your award letter from FAFSA, you may see the subsidized loans, unsubsidized. You may see Perkins loans or some of the other things, or federal work study along with the Pell Grant. But this is sort of a breakdown of what those terms are that you may see. And forgiveness programs. Now, I mentioned this, and I'll talk more about this in a future webinar where I'm talking about life after student loan debt. But just to briefly let you know, there are forgiveness programs you all may have heard about. Maybe you've seen advertisements on social media, heard them on the radio. And so this is what I want to briefly say about forgiveness programs. I do know that with the federal government, they are continuously changing their list of what types of jobs are on under the forgiveness programs. I know, like, some of them right now, if you're a public service employee, if you teach, if you work for certain nonprofits, but the list, they're continuing to revise the list. So the beautiful part about it is that they have different programs also listed on their website. And so there are a lot of companies out there who will say, hey, we can help you get student loan forgiveness, but it's going to come with a fee. Here is the thing that I advise people. If somebody calls you and says, we want to talk, your student loan lender is not going to call you unless, you're haven't been paying them or something. So I always tell people, don't talk to them. Call your lender. Your lender is going to tell you about the programs that they have, and they're going to redirect you to a site. So what happens is you pay people basically to sort of negotiate something for you for free. And at the end of the day, you can just call your lender and they can educate you on the types of programs. And like I said, then they can talk to you more about that. But just know that those options are out there, but you don't have to talk to an outside company or pay an outside company to know about these programs. Simply call your lender. Now, I like to share some student loan debt statistics because, as I mentioned, I showed or shared some of the costs around colleges in the beginning. And again, the costs are continue to go up, have been continuing to go up. So the average class of 2015, they graduated. So the graduates this year, they graduated from college, have an average student loan debt of $35,000 that they will have to pay back. For parents that took out student loans for their children, the average debt crept up to over $30,000, and this was up from $29,000 in 2014. About 17% of graduates have parents with loans out on their behalf. And this is what I like to say also, and I'm not sure, some people are aware, some people are not, but I like to tell people, the government is garnishing Social Security wages. So I actually heard a story last year where a man was, I think, in his 60s, and he thought his mom had paid off his student loans or something. But whatever happened, she didn't. And so they were actually garnishing his Social Security wages, which I think is a shame with Social Security. But nonetheless, this is the reality. So this is why it's really, really, really important to think about what you're doing with these student loans. And is this going to jeopardize any retirement, that you have? And not just for you if you're a parent, but also, for children and things like that. So these are just some statistics. I'm sure this will continue to go up because the cost of colleges are going up. And this is why it's so important to understand the type of resources that are out there. And this came from the Wall Street Journal, 2015. So just to recap, some things that we've talked about. Did you know that even if a student has good grades, that does not guarantee that they'll receive scholarships? So we mentioned that before. They also need to be well-rounded. They need to have volunteer experiences, be involved in the community, and have leadership experiences. Writing an essay for scholarships is different than writing an essay for a class assignment. As I mentioned before, a person can be a good writer, but you also need to know how to reach the scholarship committee, talk to them about why you need this scholarship in this essay because it is competitive. Students should not wait until they need money to apply for scholarships and other opportunities. This should be a year-round process. I cannot stress this enough. And locating and applying for scholarships can be a very time-consuming process, so make sure to reach out for help if you need it. So, as a free gift for taking time to attend this evening's webinar, I would like to offer free consultation to the first person that emails me with free consultation in the subject line. This consultation consists of discussing what you or your child needs to do to be prepared to take advantage of scholarships and other financial opportunities. And I'll give you my contact information in just a moment, but I want to share with you some upcoming webinars that I have on June 30th, which is a week from today at 7 p.m. I'll be discussing how graduate students can save thousands on their tuition. So I'll be going over some of these things, but I'll also, again, as I mentioned before, there are some added components to when you're applying to graduate school that are different from, undergraduate students. So understanding that, understanding the additional financial opportunities that are there. Next month, I'll be doing a webinar on life after student loan debt. There really is life, believe it or not. I'm a witness to that also. And I will also be doing a webinar on you do not need a miracle to improve your credit score. All you need is a plan. So if you got into a little trouble with your credit, whether it's because of student loans or something else, I'm going to be addressing that. And all of my webinars are recorded. So tonight's webinar is being recorded right now. And so I will make sure to send that recording to you. But I also did a webinar on May 28th on how to save thousands on college tuition for, your child. And that was focused on people that had children who were in grades 7 through 12 and talking about why you should start as early as 7th grade, preparing for college. I talked about scholarship and contests and other financial opportunities that are available for students and things like that. So if you're interested in that, if you haven't already received that recording, then you can simply contact me and I will make sure to add you to my database if you're interested in me sending you out information on upcoming webinars. So again, this is where you can contact me. You feel free to email questions to Andrea J at anjconsultingservices.com, or you can call 336-476-4710. You can also visit the following page where I discuss issues around college planning as well as download free information. I actually have a report that I've written on why college students do not finish in 4 years. And again, these are some issues around the institutional challenges as well as things that I've observed from my teaching experiences. But if you put in your information at savethousandforcollege.com, or if you want to share that link with someone else, then they can receive different emails, from me around that, as well as download that report. And then I'm actually talking just for a few minutes about some issues around college planning. If you have student loan debt that has negatively impacted your score, or you need your help managing your debt, you can also visit my site, www.anjcreditrepair.com. There you can find out more about how I can assist people, or if it's you, how I can assist you with whether it's looking at forgiveness programs, understanding those things, understanding your student loan debt, or how to just really get back on track financially, improve your score. Then you can visit that site. I am offering right now a free credit review. There's an offer on the site, so you can take advantage of that. And then I'm on social media, so you can follow me on Twitter at ANJ Consulting. And I actually also have a Facebook page, ANJ Consulting Services also. So you can find me on social media. So again, I want to thank you for joining me. And right now what we'll do is, if you have any questions or anything, you can simply click on the raise the hand button and I will take any questions. And as I mentioned before, this I recorded this, so this will actually be available to you, and I will make sure to send this out to you. And then again, if you're interested in any of the past webinar or any future webinars, then make sure, I can, like I said, if you're not already on my database, I can add you. So at this point, I'm opening it up for questions. So, all right. I see a question here. Hold on just a second. Okay, Miss Jackson, are you there? Hello? I saw Miss Jackson with her hand up. Okay. All right, I'll come back. Maybe she stepped away. Anyone else have a question? You can type it in the box, or you can click on the hand. Okay. And again, feel free to ask any question about anything. It's a lot of information. I do understand that. So it's a lot of information, scholarship sources, and like I mentioned, a lot of this will apply to graduate school also. So I don't see anybody with any questions. Let's see. Wait a minute. Hold on just a second. All right. Let's see. Thank you, Susan. All right. That was from earlier. Okay. I have a question. Are there resources that would help with writing the essays? Great question. So absolutely. So again, you can use you can ask your college professors to help you if they're willing. I was one of those that, helped. I always wanted to help. I would bring scholarship resources to class. But again, not everybody's like that. And then, you could talk with someone like myself. That's one of the services that we actually provide as it relates to helping with essays and